Hey, Cinco, welcome to the Think Business with Tyler podcast show. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good today. How are you?
I'm doing really well too. I'm out here in Northern California. Where are you located?
I'm in Central Texas, so Waco,
Nice.
Texas, between Dallas and Austin.
Nice. Very cool. I would have never known. You have a little bit of an accent there, and I'm sure
Mhm.
you may think I have an accent too. Hey, I'd love to start out with what do you do professionally?
Yeah, so about 6 months ago, I started a line striping business. So we restripe and stripe parking lots primarily, but can also do warehouses and sport courts. Basically, any surface markings, we can do that.
Very cool. And then I'd love to know a personal tidbit, anything about you personally people may not know.
Yeah, so I'm pretty big into running. I have what I think is a lofty goal of running a marathon in all 50 states. So just been chipping away at it. Only got 6 states down, but yeah, planning that's a lifetime goal of mine. So
Yeah. Well, fortunately, you're young, so you have a lot of years ahead of you.
right.
Can't remember the guy's name. I have his book. I want to say his first name's Jack, but he started doing the run marathon in every state. And I think it was at age, I think he was like 56 or 57.
Okay.
And it was crazy. He did it. I mean, he was running all the way into his 70s.
Right.
Do you have any goals in terms of like times that you want it, or is it just enjoy the ride type of thing?
Well, and I would love to qualify for some of the higher end races, and that requires a sub 3 hour marathon for my current age group. So that's kind of my goal right now. And then in terms of knocking out all 50 states, I would love to do it by age 50, which is about 2 marathons a year, which is doable for me and my family, but definitely a stretch goal.
That is pretty crazy though. So like how do you typically when you travel into a state, do you come a few days early and kind of learn the lay of the land, so to speak, and just
Yeah,
figure
so
it
it
out?
just kind of depends on where we're going. Like I
Okay.
have one coming up in Oklahoma City in April, and I mean that's only like a 3 hour drive from us, so it's
Okay.
not too bad. So we'll come up. I think we're going 2 nights before. I'm taking my family. We're gonna spend some time there, and then I'll wake up real early Sunday morning and run the race, and we'll head back either that afternoon or the next morning. But sometimes, like we have one in New Mexico later in the summer, and that's a trail race. So I'll try to get there earlier, and that's at altitude. So try to acclimate a little bit more, and yeah. So
Yeah,
it
that
just
makes
kind
sense.
of depends on how big of a trip it is.
How much recovery do you need after a marathon? Is it, I mean, you're pretty young, so maybe your body just bounces right back.
Yeah, I try to give myself at least 3 to 4 days before I go back out there and get some more miles on my legs. But
Wow.
yeah, I don't want to push it immediately after.
Yeah, I imagine that's one of the biggest challenges is just
Mhm.
staying injury free.
Right.
Um, do you ever have aspirations of even going bigger in terms of like ultra marathons and things over 50 or 100 miles? Do you see that in your future?
I would love to do that at some
Yeah,
point.
that's crazy stuff. Anyway, okay,
Uh,
I could talk about that all day. Thanks for
yeah, of
sharing
course.
that tidbit. But hey, I
Sure.
wanted to get into this business that you started 6 months ago. I
Mhm.
guess my first question would be, what even made you think about going into business for yourself?
Yeah, so it's something that I'd wanted to do for a while. My dad had always worked for himself. So that's kind of, I guess seeing him do that didn't really scare me off from it. It made it more enticing. And my background is in construction and I've worked for home builders and commercial construction builders. And just kind of are I could give you more background if you want, but after working for a couple different companies, just realized, what I do think I want to work for myself. And then it was more so, where's the need? Where is there a market gap? And after being in Waco for about a year and a half, I realized that there was one in line striping, so just went for it.
That's very cool. Now, line striping, is that a very equipment intensive business? Did you have to buy a lot of equipment?
There's not a ton of equipment to get into it. To do it, I mean, with anything, there's the right way and the wrong way to do it. There's high-end equipment that I bought right off the jump to get into it, but I'm just pulling it in my trailer. And I have one striping machine right now, and or two machines now. I just bought another one last month, and that just allows us to take on bigger jobs and knock them out faster. But the really big equipment doesn't come until you get into like asphalt work. So,
Mm.
but as far as line striping, there's the piece of equipment that I got was 10 grand, and then my trailer was 7 grand. So those were kind of my two biggest upfront costs.
Oh yeah, that's not like crazy money. I mean,
Yeah,
it
not
is an
crazy at
outlay,
all.
but not
Yeah.
crazy. What how do you gauge like, are you literally going around parking lots and seeing things that maybe look a little faded or ruined and probably need an uplift?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then how do you know who the contact is? Like, how do you hunt them down?
Yeah, so that's been one of the biggest challenges is finding the decision makers. But whether it's using LinkedIn to try to search for property managers in my area and reaching out to them directly. A lot of my jobs I've gotten just through door knocking and going to the business, introducing myself, saying, "Hey, this is what I'm doing. Would love to give you an estimate." And oftentimes the person I'm talking to, they're not the decision maker. So I'm just asking like, "Hey, do you have a phone number or email of someone I could reach out to?" And and then I sometimes it's multiple steps to get to the actual decision maker, but just talking with people, introducing myself, telling them what I'm doing, and then being able to talk to someone who actually does make that decision, tell them what we do, the value that we can add to their property. That's how I've gotten. I mean, I started in August. That's how I got the vast majority of my jobs. And then December, like this past December, was the first month where I actually had more leads come in that were inbound than were based on like outreach. So
Wow.
that was kind of encouraging.
And I imagine it's a little bit hard to close a sale in the sense that there's no real urgent, like, I mean, you kind of have to create the urgency. I mean, unless it's like totally in bad shape and it's just
Mhm.
something for whatever reason they've let go. But it's kind of hard to create that urgency in terms of the value, I would think.
Yeah, and me being such a young company, I mean, I told them like, "Hey, I'm willing to give you a discount," and I told them like my proposal's going to expire in 30 days. So that created some urgency off the bat for them. But yeah, I mean, now I'm at the point where there's people reaching out to me, and getting parking lots restriped is like a thing that happens. Like I had a distribution center reach out to me, I guess it was 3 months ago now, and a couple weekends ago I just finished up their property, and that was over 500 spaces, and we knocked that out in a weekend. But it took me and a crew of five different guys to take care of all that. And they have the budget to handle all of that. And it's the smaller ones like the gas stations or fast food restaurants where maybe there's not as much urgency in that moment, but they're still needing to get it done on a yearly basis in some cases.
Sure. Those ones seem like if you could get your foot in the door in terms of like getting on their budget for when they want to
Mhm.
do it on their terms, then
Right.
it's that probably nice I mean, I don't know how often does it have to be done? Every 3 years or so, would you
So
say?
apartment complexes are generally every 2 to 4 years, and then fast food restaurants are some of them are every 6 months, every year. And that's kind of your higher end fast food restaurants, your Chick-fil-A's and Raising Cane's type restaurants. The McDonald's may not be doing it that often, Burger King not doing it that often. But yeah, it just kind of varies.
Yeah. So it sounds like those, if you get on the radar and get with the right contacts, probably get this nice annuity business. It
Yes.
just probably a longer search to get in there.
Mhm.
Silly question, but do you always have to do it on the weekends? Because that would limit your ability. How do you like I'm thinking of like a fast food
Definitely.
restaurant. How do you get it? How do you get that empty if it's a busy fast food restaurant?
Right. So the fast food restaurants that I've done those in the evenings or super early in the morning. So like I've done some 24-hour fast food restaurants, and I can show up there at 3 or 4 in the morning and I'm out of there by 6 or 7 in the morning. So trying to beat any like meal time. And it's such like the paint I use, it dries pretty quickly. So you can cone off sections knock out half of the parking lot, let it dry, open it back up, shut down the other half of the parking lot, and then take care of the rest. And then yeah, I mean, so like talking fast food, I did a bunch of Sonics in the fall last year. That there were 11 different Sonics that I did, and those don't close until 10 or 11 at night. But I can knock out two of them in a 7 hour window. So I would work from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. And
Wow.
that's just kind of the shifts are always changing.
Yeah, this is no joke, the type of hours you have to work. That
Yeah.
makes you pretty
Mhm.
dedicated.
Right.
Wow. So I guess my other question would be, could something go, I mean, like, is this pretty, I mean, is it pretty much you paint it and they're happy, or can something go wrong? Like, do you have ever had anybody question you on the straightness of the lines, the color of the paint,
Mhm.
the how long it lasts, anything like that? Can anything go wrong in these projects?
Yeah, things can definitely go wrong. The biggest thing is dealing with equipment maintenance. So like if
Mm,
you have a paint spill, like you gotta spend a lot of time and energy cleaning that up. Sometimes it could be multiple trips. Luckily, I haven't really had too many big issues that delay projects or like anything that is unfixable. I mean, pretty much everything's fixable. It's just a matter of time, energy, and money. So, um, yeah, the biggest things is dealing with the unforeseen circumstances that come from not not maintaining the equipment properly.
okay. Did you ever have like any fears or anything like stand out when, sounds like since your dad was always self-employed, you didn't have a lot of barriers in that regard, but were there any fears that stood out as far as could you make it, or is this the right business, or
Oh yeah.
what were you thinking? I'm curious.
Yeah, definitely. So my previous job I mentioned was in construction. I was
Yeah.
working for a home builder here. We also did commercial projects too. But I was just, I mean, I was the itch to run my own thing was growing more and more. And to the point where I was looking at maybe buying into a business. And that's when I came across a striping franchise actually. And that's kind of what put it on the radar. It was parking lot striping for me. And then went down that road, decided I didn't want to do that, go with the franchise, but that kind of opened up my mind to the market that was here. But so I went ahead, bought the equipment, gave my employer, I gave him 4 weeks notice, and but didn't have any jobs lined up when I gave him that 4 weeks. So in that 4 week span, I lined up two different jobs and just went. And I had some savings where I committed, at the first 3 to 6 months, we're going to live off savings and just allow the company to grow a little bit. That way we can take on bigger opportunities come the end of that 6 months. But yeah, I mean, it's still kind of nerve-wracking thinking like, okay, I'm not sure where our money's going to come from in April or like after that, essentially. So it's just keeping that pipeline moving. But I feel like that's kind of how it goes. So,
Yeah. Well, you're already seeing some fruits from your efforts in terms of, sounds like you said your lead generation is coming in. It's first
mhm,
time where you've had all these inbound leads coming in. I mean,
mhm,
it is true as you keep putting in that effort and you keep prospecting, at some
mhm,
point it kind of just, you can't even stop it
right.
because you built such a group of people around you that are either referring you or returning
Mhm,
for more business. So that
right.
sounds like a good start.
Yes, yes, definitely. Yeah, the decision makers that refer you, those are the best kind of clientele.
Yeah, that's cool. Now, you mentioned having some people that help you.
Mhm.
What's that been like, adding people, and what do you, it sounds like the machinery is part of the barrier to your growth, or you need to keep adding machines to grow. What does it look like in terms of your ability to grow this and scale the business?
Yeah, so that's definitely a little bit of a challenge right now, figuring out which direction I want to grow and how I grow. Right now, I'm the only full-time employee.
Okay.
So I've had maybe 8 different guys work with me. And when I first started, the guys I had helping out with me were friends of friends. And yeah, just people that I was already connected with. They already had full-time jobs. They weren't necessarily looking for a part-time job. They were just more so willing to help me out. But then at the first of the year, I posted a job on Indeed and got some good responses from there. So now I've actually started working with some guys who do want to like get into line striping. They want a part-time job right now. I don't have the work to support a full-time job for them right now, but I want to start training someone who can run the machinery and who I can be confident in sending them to do their own job. So having guys who are able to work those weird hours, sometimes super late at night, early in the morning. So a lot of the jobs, I mean, the all the jobs I did last week were between 8 and 5. So
Okay.
regular hours. We're working at a church. So pretty much any week, any weekday, 8 to 5, you can work. It's just there you can't work at churches on Sundays. So
Right. Right.
um
That would be my specialty, by the way. I think I specialize in churches, so I
yeah,
could work
there you
eight to
go.
five.
Right. But anyways, so that's a bit of a challenge, just finding people who can consistently work a inconsistent schedule, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, it's hard enough to find people working a regular schedule
right,
where they're reliable and they actually
right,
show up. I could only imagine, like, you schedule for the middle of the night and then, you got to rely on that person that they're going to show up.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a tough
So
one.
yeah, so I've still been putting my eyes and knocking out pretty much every job we've done today. And everyone I've had help me has been just that they've been more of the helper and I've been the crew lead role, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah, that seems like that could be your biggest challenge of
Mhm.
scalability because you only can do so much. Over time, you'll probably get a little burnt out if it's
Right.
always on your shoulders. So that sounds like a little bit of a scalability issue.
Mhm.
Um, do you find like who are you competing with? Is this a very competitive area or is it not really?
Yeah, so there's definitely times where I'm bidding against multiple other companies. A lot of those companies, they are either like full scale parking lot maintenance, like they'll also do street sweeping and asphalt repair, seal coating, and then tack on line striping as an addition. And sometimes they're subbing out their line striping to to either a guy like me or someone like I know of a paving company where they sub out their work to a guy who's coming down from Fort Worth, and he's just got a truck and one machine and puts it in the bed of his truck and comes down and knocks it out for him. And we're trying to be a little bit more professional than that and offer like our services and yeah, it's more than just putting paint on their parking lot. So those are sometimes the people that I'm competing with, and that's more in the new construction realm. Um, and then as far as another thing on that actually. So when I'm competing against those people, they're not going after the line striping jobs like I am. They're going after the seal coating and repave jobs because that's where more money is for them. So I'm kind of competing against them, but they're not as like upset if they don't get the job.
Right, because
So
they're just subbing it out anyway, right?
right.
So
Yeah.
for
A
them,
lot of
they're
a
they're
lot of
probably
the time.
marking it up a little bit, or it's probably
Yeah.
not their money maker. It's probably
Right.
just an ancillary thing they've added to their business.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. And sometimes they are doing it in-house. Like if they'll own their own machinery and have their guys go and knock it out more as a space filler, to keep their guys busy.
yeah, yeah. Okay. Um, what do you envision? Like, do you envision for your own business? Is the growth in more striping, or is the growth in doing some other things that are complementary to what you're doing with
Mhm.
this?
Yeah, I really want to focus on line striping for the short term. Like I'd say that's kind of my 12 to 18 month goals is to really perfect the line striping and
Okay.
become that sub for the bigger paving companies where I'm
Mm,
their go-to guy. I can take that headache off of their plate. They don't have to worry about it. So that's kind of my short-term goals. And long-term goals, I don't know, maybe it's I don't know. I'm just kind of weary of setting like 5 and 10 year goals and becoming dead set on them. So that's kind of my 12 to 18 months. I could see myself getting into maybe adding pressure washing because sometimes some of these lots they should be pressure washed before we go and restripe. Or get into seal coating because like all the asphalt, sometimes it needs to be resealed and then restriped. So, but I don't know, both of those, not as much pressure washing, but on the asphalt maintenance side, that does require a much bigger capital investment with the machinery that you have to get for that.
I mean, what's your, from a revenue standpoint, do you envision like, can this be a seven-figure business doing striping in your mind?
Probably not in Waco. I think
Okay.
if I really went out to Austin and DFW, then it could be. Like, no problem. I think it could definitely be seven-figure business. Um, but just in my market, it would, I don't know. My revenue goal for this year is around 300K.
Yeah, that's a good number. I mean, especially since you're doing most of the work.
Right.
I'm assuming from a supplies and material standpoint, the paint isn't, I mean, what's your margin typically on a job?
Yeah, so it varies a lot depending on the size of the job. Generally, it's between 25 and 45%.
Okay. So there's,
Sometimes higher if I can get a job knocked out quickly. If I'm the only one touching the prop, if I say me, if like line striping is the only thing that they're needing done, then we're in and out of there. But sometimes we're waiting on a pressure washer or they need to fit us into their schedule. It's multiple trips for us. There's a lot of stuff that goes into it.
very cool. Okay. And then what do you like? What's your long-term vision here? Like, what do you see? I know 18 months is like it. You don't want to have
Mhm.
to, they do say, just so you know, like in those 5 and 10 year goals, those North Stars, a lot of times, as I've heard the terminology people use, it's
Mhm.
more of like, to give yourself a direction and a focus. It
Right.
doesn't mean like, you're like locked into it, but if
Right.
you kind of have that North Star when you're working on those smaller steps, that 16 to
Mhm.
18 months or even 3 months, you're
Right.
kind of thinking about how does that relate to my North Star and am I going in the right direction?
Right.
So that's one thing to think about, maybe if you think out a little bit more. But what do you see in terms of vision and just future plans? What do you see? Like how big is this, like just a stepping stone to something bigger, or do you envision taking this business? Do you see even yourself maybe building it to a certain level and selling it? Like, what do you have any thoughts around that?
Yeah, I think that my long-term goal is to potentially get into other types of businesses, like what initially wanted me to get into this business was the idea that I want to own and operate my own thing and start from the ground level and grow it enough to a point where if I wanted to sell it, I could. So doing that with other businesses sounds really intriguing to me. I don't know if I'm probably too ADHD and suffer from shiny object syndrome to focus on just one thing for the rest of my life. But I love one thing that I've enjoyed so much about this is just seeing the process from beginning to end and having a very involved hand in all aspects of a deal. So
Yeah.
I could see myself doing that with something else. And whether that's adding on services to this and doing the same thing with seal coating or pressure washing or becoming a full scale exterior property maintenance company, um, like that, things like that definitely excite me.
Yeah. Want to shift topics
Yeah.
kind of back to the marathon and also the marathon goal, and then also just starting a business. When I think of those two things, I think of mindset, like your mindset has to be in a certain place.
Mhm.
Do you consider yourself with a strong mindset, and do you work on your mindset? What are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, I would consider myself with a stronger mindset than the average. I don't necessarily do anything to work on it on like a daily or weekly basis.
Yeah, because it sounds like you have a young family. I mean, to start a business, that there's, that some people would say, hey, with a young family, I'm not going to do that. So you kind of have to
Mhm.
have a certain mindset that says, I can make this work. I'm going to, even you said yourself, you're not sure where April's revenue is coming from yet.
Right.
So there's a certain uncertainty there that you have to be willing to
Hmm.
Bet on yourself and believe, you know what, it's not a problem. I'm going to make it work. I always do.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I got a rock star wife, so I think if you don't have that, then you're fighting an uphill battle all the way. But yeah, we do have two young kids, and that's yeah, just a huge factor. We have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, and we want more kids, you know. But I think in the framework that I have is it's never going to be easier than today, you know. Like it's only going to get more difficult. Um, and yeah, and I want my kids to see me experience and to like live my life as fully as possible, you know, and that doesn't mean that I don't sacrifice a ton for them, but I want them to see me like deal with the struggle of work-life balance, you know, and make the sacrifices daily for like right now I'm just working from home. And so they're seeing me be on the computer where mom's having to take them out to run errands so I can hop on this call, whatever it may be. And I like that. I like that they get to be a part of my working experience. And it's like with parking lot striping, it's simple enough for them to understand, you know.
Right. Right.
So I love talking with them about it. And my 3-year-old, he like points out lines and whatnot. So it's really fun.
That is pretty cool. I like that. Hey, I'd love to, before you wrap up, I've got a couple more things. One thing I'd love to learn from you
Mhm.
so far in your entrepreneurial journey, do you have any tips or anything like takeaways that you've learned in terms of this journey that you've had so far? Like, kind of maybe you do a do-over, maybe it's just something that you already went in with knowledge, maybe from your dad. I'd love for you to share anything that kind of comes to mind.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. I feel like I learn something new every day. Um, I think that something that I've learned about myself is that no one's going to value me as much as myself. And whether that's bidding a job and bidding it what may seem like bidding it too high, but just like believing in yourself enough to say, you know what, I'm worth 150 an hour instead of $100 an hour, you know. And then once you land that job, that gives you some confidence, and that confidence is compounding, you know, and it just gives you more um surety that you can go out and bid other bigger jobs. That's one thing that I've learned about myself is, yeah, just that no one's going to value my time as much as me or my energy as much as me. So you do kind of have to fight for that in whatever, I don't know, business that you're running. And then something else that I've learned, I know that everyone says like find something that you want to do, find work that feels like play and you'll never work a day in your life, you know? Like I honestly didn't know whether or not I was going to enjoy line striping. Like pushing this machine down a parking lot. I didn't know if I was going to enjoy it. I think that the fact that I'm doing it like for myself and my family and I'm controlling my hours and I'm generating the work, like that is what is extremely fulfilling for me. I think no matter what it would be, what I would be doing, whether it's pressure washing or cleaning houses, like if I was the one generating the work, I would find it that much more enjoyable. So I mean, I don't think twice about saying yes to a job that starts at 11 at night and I won't get home till 5 in the morning. Like that excites me. And I'm built such a way where I love the variety in my schedule. I think that you have to have certain routines, but being willing to flex on, for in my case, just working hours is something that serves me well, and I'm able to like and enjoy the variety that line striping offers.
Yeah, those are two solid ones. They're
Yeah.
good takeaways that you've had in such a short run so far. I mean,
Yeah.
it's amazing. I don't know how much you're reflecting on it, but it's amazing when you look back where you were 6 months ago and where you
Mhm.
are today. And hopefully you can see in the next 6 months, it's going to be another stage and step. And
Definitely.
then another 6 months, it's another stage and step. And it's cool. I think that's probably one of the most exciting things about being an entrepreneur is just kind of looking back where you were at a
Mhm.
certain time point and going, wow, I'm at this whole new spot today.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay, well,
Yeah.
awesome. So your website is truelinestripingtx.com. Once again, that's truelinestripingtx.com. And I'll put that in the show notes at thinktyler.com. It is Cinco, if people wanted to reach out to you, is that the best spot or is there anywhere else that you'd like them to go?
Yeah, and I mean they can email me directly. My email's on the website, but it's Cinco at truelinestripingtx.com. They can reach out to me that way as well.
Awesome, man. Anything I left out or anything you want to add before we wrap up?
No, I don't think so. I read a little bit about you that I was curious when you started. I know it's so you started your CPA firm, correct?
Yeah, so I had a CPA firm. I sold it after about 5 years. I built it up to about 200 business clients. And
Hmm.
then one of my clients, the reason I sold it is one of my clients, uh, we got really close. I helped him establish an engineering services firm, a staffing and recruiting firm.
Hmm.
And after about a couple years of him getting going, he said, "Hey, would you like to join?" And I did. I sold my practice. I joined with him. I ended up ultimately running the business,
Hmm.
taking it over, and I ran it for like I think it was 7 out of the 10 years there, 8 out of the 10 years there, and
Hmm.
built it to about 25 million in annual revenue. We
Hmm.
sold it to a company in a company called Yo. They're based in Philadelphia,
Okay.
and I just decided after we sold it, like I didn't want to be an employee of a large company. Like I've always
Okay.
worked around,
Hmm.
small businesses, and I love that. And so that's when I kind of pivoted and said, "Hey, I got into coaching and now the fractional CFO stuff. And it's
Hmm.
just, I love working with small business owners. That's kind of my story
Yeah.
in a nutshell."
Yeah. So my question was going to be, did you have an exit plan going into starting your CPA firm and then going into joining and then running the engineering firm?
Yeah, that's a great question. CPA firm, no. Truthfully, I really thought the CPA firm, that's what I would do for the rest of my life.
Okay.
And I had built it up to a level where I was autonomous and I was adding staff.
Hmm.
It's just when I saw the opportunity to do something bigger. So,
Hmm.
CPA firm is driven by your billable hours, and there's only,
Hmm.
unless you're going to keep adding staff, there's only big as you can get, right? There's only so big you're going to get.
Hmm.
The staffing and the recruiting, the engineering services, I kind of saw a path to like, you know, 10, 25, 50 million. I could see it when I was thinking about the numbers and I was thinking about the
Okay.
placements and I saw the numbers. I was helping him with his bookkeeping at the time.
Hmm.
So it's definitely a careful decision I'd made with my wife because I had built something that was, I mean, I was autonomous. I could do whatever I wanted.
Hmm.
Um, but I wanted to risk. I wanted to try bigger. And I felt like, you know what? I always could go back and build another firm. I mean, I did it once. Why can't I do it again?
Yeah.
And I'm glad I made the decision because the experiences I got. Now, the engineering services firm, the plan when I joined from day one was, hey, let's build this up to a certain level. In fact, the
Okay.
goal was to get to 50 million and let's
Okay.
sell it.
Okay.
Now we didn't make it to the 50 million because frankly, we started getting offers at 25 and they were so lucrative that
Hmm.
it just made sense to to
Okay.
to cash out.
Yeah.
Especially I had a minority interest, so I didn't get as much of the sales price as the primary owner,
Okay.
and he was getting like there's a saying, it's called FU money. It's like money that it's so much
Hmm.
money that you can just say FU to everything. So it was that
Yeah.
type of money. So it's hard to
Okay.
even though both of us weren't getting that FU money, it was kind of hard. I still had the CPA fiduciary mindset. It's hard to pass
Hmm.
up that type of money.
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
that's kind of how I played out. So I don't think, to answer your question, I don't think, and just to take it one step further, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. I think what I try to advise clients to do is build your business. If you build your business in the right way in certain ways,
Hmm.
you will have it eligible for sale. So it will be very marketable for sale. You
Hmm.
may choose not to sell it, but you'll reap the benefits of creating a business that has systems and processes, good
Hmm.
culture, good team, financials are strong. You do all those things, you're just gonna have a great business, regardless of what you decide to do.
Right. Yeah. Cool. Well, that's
Does,
great. Yeah.
does
I was
that
just
help a
curious
little
about
bit?
that. Yeah, definitely helpful.
Yeah. I mean, you've got a good business, in my humble opinion. You're setting something up probably that will be very saleable at some point. I don't
Mhm.
know, multiples generally for you're
Mhm.
what's called a boring business. In fact,
Yes.
mine were boring businesses too.
Uh,
Usually like a 3 to 5 multiple of net earnings, typically SD, they call it seller discretionary earnings. So good opportunity there. I mean, I think, you build it the right way, maybe try to get a crew at some point
mhm.
that is so it isn't completely reliant on you.
Yeah.
And man, you create some value there. I mean, it's cool. You've already created value, but you can continue to add to it.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. No, that's good stuff. I appreciate that.
Yeah, great questions. Anyway, man, it was great to have you on the show.
Hmm.
I'd love to talk with you like in a year from now, and just I bet you'll be at the next stage, and it'll
Let's
be
do it.
a whole different angle of questions and comments that we'll
Of
talk
course.
about. So thanks a lot, man.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks so much, Tyler. I really appreciate it.
Sure, take care.
Yeah, you too.